Hey Muse, it's me again. Remember me? Of course you do. You're with me all the time. How could you forget? So, I have something that I think is pretty exciting to talk about with you today. And it's something that cross-pollinates between my artistic endeavors. I also have my cat down here who wants to say hello, but he's always wanting to anyway. So, you know, I'm working on Cabaret. I am playing the MC in a production. And today I've spent a really good deal of time working on the song Willkommen. Now, if you don't know the musical, if you're not familiar with it, this is the 1998 revival or reboot of it. And in that number, the MC introduces all of the Kit Kat Club dancers. And what's really interesting about this is that during the song, during the introduction of each one of the dancers, it says in the script, it'll say the name of the dancer, and then it says in parentheses ad lib. So I have been working on all of these different ad libs for each character, and we haven't had a whole lot of rehearsal yet. So I've had some dancing interaction with the characters, but I haven't seen the characters really in action yet. So I don't know what the different actors are bringing to the characters. So that makes it really hard to ad-lib, because all I have to go by right now really are the names. Well, I have the names and I know how each one of the actors and actresses look. So my ad-libs are at the moment really kind of based on very two-dimensional characteristics of these people and these characters. So I've always been pretty good at improvisation and ad-libbing, and even with the training that I have, it's been kind of a struggle to work on it by myself, because I don't have the actors here. Even when I'm there, we haven't actually choreographed that number yet. But while I'm there, you know, I'm trying to get a feel of who these people are, but I'm only getting a feel of who the actors are, not the characters. So that is making it very challenging for me to ad-lib based on anything but the name. And that, you know, that gets kind of old after a while. You know, I don't want to just constantly be bringing that dimension to this moment. I want to be able to bring more depth to it. And I was just thinking about this a little bit ago. And it relates perfectly to writing. And something that I have addressed before with creating characters. And when you create characters that are not multidimensional, all of a sudden they blend together. And there's nothing to differentiate themselves from the other characters besides a name. And if there's one thing that every artist needs to know, is that we as people are more than just a name. Yes, of course, a lot of writers will go out of their way, or some writers will go out of their way to name a character based on a specific trait of that character. But even that isn't enough. You have to imbue that character with a personality. Otherwise, all of that ad-libbing and improvisation you're going to do as a writer or an actor is going to come off as one or two dimensional at best. And so when I'm writing a new character, a lot of the times one of the first things that I will do is I will think of, what kind of music does this person like? Because I often think that the music that we choose to listen to is often very indicative of who we are as people. And sometimes it can be a little bit stereotypical, but sometimes stereotypes work. And music is something I have always felt that has a universality to it. People know how to kind of get their fingers into the pie of music. And so I will, when all of a sudden I have to bring a new character to life, I answer that question. What type of music do they like? What are they listening to at that moment? And when I answer that question, the character tends to come to life pretty quickly. And this kind of also kind of plays into my acting training. A playwright gives you dots throughout the script that indicate the character's journey. But those dots don't create a picture until you connect them as an actor. And it is an actor's job, it is a writer's job to make those connections. Because in those connections, there is an infinite void of wonder that we can explore as artists. And right now, as the MC, I only have some of these dots, and not all of the dots. I only have a few of the dots that I can try to connect so that I can create those ad-libs about these characters. And it's not until that I get a few more dots that I can piece together and then start stringing those connecting lines together that I will be able to truly form these insightful and hopefully humorous ad-libs for the show. And I think that as an artist, as any artist who creates, be it music, be it plays, be it screenwriting, be it novels, be it poetry, we have to be able to create these dimensions to the characters. Otherwise, we cannot connect the dots to those dimensions and make them whole. And the last thing that a reader or a viewer or a listener wants is an incomplete character. On top of which, as an actor, if I'm working with someone who has brought to the table an incomplete character, it makes it hard for me to work with. I can't relate to that. You and I, if you've come to rehearsal without doing your homework and you brought to rehearsal an incomplete character, when you and I interact together, our interaction is going to be shallow because you haven't completed your internal process. And you're just going to stand there as kind of a cardboard cutout of a character. And everything I say is just going to bounce off. And it's going to fall to the floor because nothing has been truly and fully developed enough that it could come back to me and give me feedback. Usable feedback. And it's the same thing with a character in a book. When I write a character in a book, if all of a sudden I'm getting that incomplete feedback, that two-dimensional feedback from that character, I know that I've not done my job. And I've created a character that is shallow and hollow. And I have to fill in the blanks so that character comes to life. And I know that this is happening when all of a sudden I'm trying to write, be it dialogue or description about a character, and I can't do it. If I struggle to do that, I know that I have not fully realized that character. And the same thing is happening right now with the MC, wherein I'm not struggling to create these ad-libs, but I'm having to work harder than I should to create these ad-libs because I'm working alone at times, and the canvases that I have to work with are still incomplete. And there's plenty of time for rehearsal, and those canvases will be completed, and then I can actually start working a little more productively with these ad-libs, because their characters will have been fully realized, and I can glean from the facets that they have pieced together for those characters and go, I can use that. I can use this. Oh, look over there. There's a nice little bit. And that creates a whole puzzle that we can put together and we can shake around and break apart and put back together in a different way. But we have all the pieces. And until that happens, we're missing pieces in there. And it just doesn't work right. So the artist's job is to, I believe, now, and this might seem a little bit contradictory, I think, maybe, I don't know. But I believe that the artist's job, the writer's job, I'll state this from a writer's position. The writer's position is to give the reader enough of a character that allows the reader to easily take that journey with them. The reader should not have to second guess who a character is or what a character is. Yes, you can leave little bits and pieces out of the picture so that the reader can use their own imagination to fill in some of those blanks. But you can't make it challenging to the reader such that they are given an incomplete character and are left guessing as to what that character would do. And when I say what the character would do, I don't, obviously they're going to know what the character does because they're going to read it. But I'm talking about what the character does off stage, out of the screen. Because I like to think that when you write a character or you perform a character that is whole and complete enough, the reader or the audience member can then picture what that character is doing when they're not on stage or on the page. To me, that's what I want to create. I want to create characters that the reader can take. They can take that journey beyond the story that I've written. And when they've closed that book, and they've gone away from the book, they're going to go back to the book, but when they're away from the book, those characters are still in their head. And they might be wondering, what would that character do in this situation? And you've given them enough. You've given them a complete enough character that they can imagine that. And if you haven't given them enough of that character and they can't imagine that, you've not done your job. I could probably take most of the characters that I've written in my books and ad-lib about them, as the MC does in Cabaret about the dancers. If I can't, then I've done something wrong, I think. What do you think about that, Muse? Does that get the old gears a-twirling? It does me. Until next time, Muse. Willkommen. Bienvenue. Welcome to the cabaret.